The Nintendo 64 is my favorite console of all time. The console does get some flack because of the controller and most of the games haven't aged well. Those points are valid, but I have a lot of fond memories of it growing up, and getting to relive these in my adulthood has been a very cherished experience. Like most of you, I sold my childhood console to make way for the next generation of systems. Once I began retro game collecting, the N64 was a top priority. The following is my personal top 10 games that I currently have in my collection. I want to stress, this is my personal top 10 of games I currently own. There will be some glaring omissions. Those are likely ones I do not own, and to me, if I haven't felt the need to purchase them, they wouldn't make my top 10 anyways. First, here's a couple of honorable mentions. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Star Wars Rogue Squadron takes the snowspeeder level from the Shadows of the Empire game and makes an entire game out of it. This game looks and sounds like the Star Wars universe, and with the expansion pack in tow, this is one of the best looking games on the console. The game consists of multiple unique levels exclusive to this game, some familiar to the movies and some brand new ideas. You will fly all the iconic ships and take down various TIE fighters to the mission objectives. There are some medals given out after each level if you satisfy the various criteria. The replay value comes into play when attempting to go for the gold. These will be needed for the various unlockable content. This game is very cheap on the secondhand market, making it easy to recommend. This game is just outside my top 10 since there is a better sequel on the GameCube. Overall, this is a fantastic game that any Star Wars fan should pick up on the Nintendo 64.
Good shooting!
Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is a technical marvel to have been ported to this console. It takes the 2-disc game from the original PlayStation and somehow manages to compile it onto one cartridge. The cutscenes are heavily compressed, which is to be expected for a cartridge game. The gameplay looks better in my opinion than the PlayStation 1, and you will not notice any technical issues besides the cutscenes. Resident Evil 2 is a classic in the survival horror franchise and considered by many, including myself, to be the best in the series. It takes everything from the first game, but includes a new location and 2 new characters to play as. Both characters have different story perspectives and different experiences that add to the replay value. They will intertwine a bit and explore the same areas, but the gameplay experience is still different for each. There are even B storylines for them when completing the main storyline to get you back into the game. Resident Evil 2 has better ports on the Sega Dreamcast and the Nintendo GameCube. However, the N64 port is still a great option. At the time of this video, it is currently the cheapest version of the game. Definitely pick this one up if you're a fan of the series and looking for another way to play this classic. Snowboard Kids. Snowboard Kids is essentially Mario Kart but with snowboards. The game allows for 2 item slots to be purchased with the coins during the race. The items will vary on effectiveness and action, but they are essential to coming in first. The music in the game is some of the catchiest tunes you will hear on the N64. After just a few minutes, you will be humming along to the various courses as you speed down the mountain. Another unique aspect of Snowboard Kids is the chairlift. When you reach the end of the course, you will race to the chairlift entrance to get on and back up the mountain. You and your opponents can beat each other to the lift to jump ahead of each other briefly. This creates a ton of chaos and fun at the bottom of the mountain. You will have a rush of adrenaline once you reach the bottom and eagerly anticipating getting back up the mountain to race down once again. There are many various courses ranging from snowy mountains, grasslands, and even a ninja palace. The main gripe I have with this game is the computer rubber banding. You will rarely be able to get the big leads from your opponents, which does add to the intensity, but can be frustrating because you get far behind. Snowboard Kids is an absolute blast to play with the music and challenge that will keep you coming back for more. Grab some friends and sit down and play this one. Star Fox 64. Star Fox 64 is one of those games I immediately think of when I think of the Nintendo 64. The iconic characters and levels are the ones that I remember going back to constantly for the quick fix of N64 goodness. Star Fox 64 is an on-rails space shooter with some all-range modes mixed in. The game can be completed in one sitting, but don't let that fool you, the game has ton more to offer. There are branching paths that will take you to different levels and add more challenge. To get the best ending, you will need to take the most difficult path and complete each level with their secret ending. You will acquire medals for eliminating enough enemies, and these medals will allow you to move up the ranks in your overall score. The game keeps track of your score, so you can always go back and admire how you did. Star Fox 64 also includes a multiplayer mode, but it does feel like an afterthought. There is some fun to be had, but the main aspects of this game is the single-player campaign. Star Fox 64 is a must-have for any owner of the console, and one you will surely be picking up to play every few months to get that nostalgia fix.
I can't move. I'll take care of the bomb now.
Mario Party 3. Mario Party got its start on the Nintendo 64. The first installment in the franchise was a little rough around the edges. Some of the mini-games were unbalanced and unfair, and of course there was the infamous control stick mini-games that you can only win by using the palm of your hand. This created so many issues that Nintendo later issued gloves in Japan to wear when playing the game. Mario Party 2 is more or less an expansion of the original game, but making large improvements. Truth be told, if I owned that in my collection, it might have been on this list. Now getting to Mario Party 3, this game feels completely different from the first two. The graphics are improved, there's all new boards and minigames, none of which consist of using the palm of your hand. Items are included to better balance the game, and there are even some rare items available to really change it up. One, for example, that even will extend the turns on the board. Overall, you can't really go wrong with any of these games. They are perfect multiplayer games that almost anyone would enjoy. They are just great times for everyone involved, except maybe the person losing. Grab some company, and maybe even some beers, and enjoy. WWF No Mercy. Imagine it's the year 2000. The Attitude Era is nearing its end, but the WWF is still at its apex. How do you experience that wrestling goodness on a home console? You pop in WWF No Mercy. WWF No Mercy, to this day, is still the greatest wrestling game ever made. The graphics have not aged well, but the controls and fighting mechanics have never been matched. Matches are easy to get the hang to, but hard to master. The Creator Wrestler mode is robust, and there's a lot of additional game modes to earn money to unlock additional characters and ring attire. The overall presentation is definitely not on par with the newer wrestling games, but the gameplay remains king. There is also an extensive story mode with branching paths to experience different outcomes and unlock secret characters. I would put this one up against any wrestling game and pick it over it every time. If you own an N64 and are a wrestling fan, do yourself a favor and pick up this game. FZero X. FZero X from the initial start screen is a rush of adrenaline. You're greeted with a heavy guitar riff and you just know you're in for an experience. F-Zero is a neglected franchise by Nintendo these days, but back in the N64 era, this was going strong. FZero X has an unmatched racing experience with 30 racers on screen at once. The intensity of each race will keep your blood pumping and you wanting to jump back into the next one. The races can be rather challenging, with other cars causing damage and sections of the track missing rails. You will quickly lose lives on the later tracks until you get your skills up to par. The game has over 40 races to choose from, with various colors for each. There are some unique tracks that have high jumps and loops that can be very difficult to navigate. F-Zero X also boasts some of the most iconic music in gaming, with tracks like Mute City and Big Blue. This one should definitely not be overlooked for an F-Zero fan or a fan of racing games in general. Diddy Kong Racing. Diddy Kong Racing is one of the most iconic racers on the Nintendo 64. Developed by Rare, this game has their fingerprints all over it. A large overworld to explore, lots of secrets, and most of all, amazing music. The single-player adventure mode will challenge you, frustrate you, and leave you ready to quit. What makes Rare developed games so great is the challenge is never too much that you can't overcome. It just takes patience and persistence to get over that threshold. Diddy Kong Racing is one of those games where you will have a hard time putting down. You'll be clamoring for one more race or one more balloon because the game is just that addicting. The racing seems simple at first, but once you get the silver coins thrown in, you'll have to race the same tracks over and over to learn the placement. You'll have to master the drift and controls in order to get each coin and then win the race. With multiple playthroughs, you will learn the best strategy for which ones to grab first and which routes to take. Then, you get the boss battles. These will leave grown men crying. The bosses will consistently get big leads and take head starts. You almost have to have a perfect run to beat them. Again though, with a continued effort, you can win. The challenge is always fair, and that's what makes this game great. The multiplayer mode in Diddy Kong Racing may not be what it is in Mario Kart 64, but the single-player campaign has no comparison. Mario Kart 64 is a great game, but it has been expanded on with each console generation. Diddy Kong is an exclusive experience to the Nintendo 64, which is why it's on this list. There's a ton of content and much to keep you busy. For me, this makes Diddy Kong Racing the best racer on the console. BanjoKazooie. BanjoKazooie, another Rare developed game. Seeing a trend here? BanjoKazooie is a collectathon platformer on a console with many to choose from. For me, it stands above the rest. What sets it apart is the colorful world and catchy music that will get stuck in your head. Even the little jingles when you pick up a musical note is a nice touch. Each world will get progressively bigger with more difficult challenges in each. Each world consists of 10 jiggies to collect, and there's a lot of variety on how you get them. Some will need special abilities, other will be a mini game, and some will just be in hard to reach places. Even the overworld has secrets to find. The game concludes with a different but fun trivia game that will test your knowledge from throughout the adventure. Hopefully you were paying attention. Then you will face off against Gruntilda for one final showdown. Super Mario 64 is an iconic game on the system, and while it deserves its own praise, for me I will choose BanjoKazooie to play over it. I just love the collecting aspect and the relaxing mood the game puts me in. I love the style and the characters in the game, as well as the hilarious dialogue. Hopefully one day a proper reboot of this game will happen, but for now I will stick to playing it in its original form. GoldenEye 007. Oh look, another Rare developed game. GoldenEye 007 was a game that came out of nowhere for me as a kid. We received it a few days after Christmas when my parents decided to pick it up for us. It wasn't something we were even aware of, but quickly we grew to love the game. GoldenEye 007 follows the movie of the same name, but with a few different levels mixed in. The game didn't invent the first-person genre, but it did popularize it on home console. Couch multiplayer lets you and your friends duke it out for dominance, something that is still enjoyable to this day. I remember playing with my brothers and friends in all the different game modes, the man with golden gun, rockets, throwing knives, proximity mines, whatever you choose, it was an absolute blast. We would scream at each other to not look at the other screen, but we all did it. There was no stopping us, but we would never admit it. The single player is amazing too. There's 3 difficulty settings that allow for a lot of replay value and add different objectives to each level. You can have a completely different experience each time you up the difficulty. GoldenEye 007 by today's standards is a rough game. It may not be for everyone when you try to go back to it. However, the gameplay is still there and the multiplayer fun can always be had. Trust me, if you haven't lived until you've played a 4-player proximity mine match on Facility, trust me, go do it ASAP. Paper Mario. Paper Mario got its start on the Nintendo 64. It's your standard Mario story, only this time Bowser has obtained the Star Rod. However, unlike the previous games, this is an RPG with a turn-based battle system. The art style is kin to its name, with everything looking like paper. This actually has helped the game age well since the blocky 3D graphics are nowhere to be found. The RPG elements might be on the easier side, but the game will challenge you with some of its boss battles. There are 7 star spirits to get, and each will grant you a new battle ability. Once you get all 7, you can go after Bowser. Each world is varied as well. One is a desert area, another is a haunted house, and another is even in the clouds. There are also lots of different partners you will meet along the way. These will give you a second attack and allow you to use their specific ability outside of battle. Paper Mario is a game. I just love the turn-based battle system set in the Mario universe. The Paper Mario series didn't get too many great sequels, so if you're a fan of the series, do yourself a favor and go back and play this game. This is one of the best RPG experiences on the console. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. What can I say about this game? It's a classic by every definition of the word. I remember the Christmas morning I got this. I knew of the series, but I never played too much of it. I popped it in and was instantly hooked. I fell in love with the open world and the different dungeons you would explore. I purchased the strategy guide to help aid me on my quest, very needed pre-internet. I have probably completed Ocarina of Time more than any other game in my life. Ocarina of Time is the gold standard of the 3D Zelda series. So many have come after it, but none compare to this one. The story is simple: go save the princess. You start out as young Link, just collecting 3 stones to get into the Temple of Time. And once you attain the Master Sword, you grow into adult Link, and the game really begins. You meet Sheik, who helps you along the way, only to find out she's Zelda. I'm still upset that was spoiled for me back in elementary school. Sorry if I just spoiled it for someone, but this game is 25 years old. Ocarina of Time has a lot for any Zelda fan to do. There are multiple heart pieces to find, and 5 temples to really sink your teeth into, each having a new item to help you progress forward. It's a Zelda game in its purest forms. No gimmicks, no frills. This is just straight Zelda. Zelda is my favorite franchise of all time, and Ocarina of Time is the top of that list. For the Nintendo 64, there's nothing more I'd rather play than this game. The Nintendo 64 is the console that many people may overlook, especially if it was skipped over at the time. It has early 3D graphics and a funny controller, but for me, this is my favorite console. I grew up with it. I played it during the most impressionable years, and I had some of the best gaming experiences. Best part about retro game collecting is going back to those games. It's like a time capsule that brings you back to the moments and the feelings you had when playing them. I hope everyone enjoyed this video of my top 10 N64 games. I look forward to hearing your comments, and I appreciate all you for checking it out. Take care.